Hey there, I'm back. I think I figured out how to post on Facebook and YouTube again. I'm back on my main PC. So if you're seeing this, you should be able to post a comment and I can respond in real time. So now I'm going to talk about book marketing. I've talked in the book, Write, Format, Publish, Promote, which it used to be Write, Format, Publish, Promote. Now it's Write and Publish on a Budget. And I recently revised it. So there's a free copy you can go and download. But there are 4 or 5 steps, which are basically write, edit, design, publish, promote. And if you follow me, you're probably interested in the promotion, in the book marketing stuff. A long time ago, I wrote a book called Book Marketing is Dead, which is also free. And I was basically just saying, none of this stuff works. All of the authors who are trying to promote are doing desperate, spammy things that you should stop, because real book marketing is about relationships. And that's still true to a big extent. The other thing I mentioned in this book was that people routinely want me to launch their book for them, and I can't really do it. I've mostly stopped taking on that kind of service because I can do the book design, I can figure out the marketing, the audience, I can do a good job of getting it ready to launch, but I can't get it the reviews. I could set up ARC copies, I could build an email list, but I can't promise to get reviews on a book, especially if I didn't write it or if I didn't edit it. I don't know that readers will enjoy it. And if readers don't enjoy it and they don't review it, you can't ever even get started with book marketing. So that's why I personally am reluctant to offer like a done-for-you book marketing service. It's also why I'm really skeptical of any other kind of publishing or book launching service, because they can get you the visibility, but they can't get you the conversion without the reviews. And you don't necessarily have to have a personal relationship with your reviewers, and actually can be detrimental, because if you have, if they follow you on email or social media, then, or if you're using the wrong link to your book and Amazon knows that you're sending the traffic, Amazon will block or delete those reviews. So what you really want is real reviews from real people who are strangers who don't have any vested interest. Someone asked, how do you get people to review your book? And anybody who's the right reader of your genre. You don't want to offer it to like your family or friends, because if they buy the book, it'll screw up your also bots anyway. And you don't necessarily want to like ask people because that's kind of awkward. And I wouldn't recommend reaching out to influencers either, because it's almost always going to be a hard no. If you're cold emailing strangers and trying to get them to do you a favor, that's not a good position to start from. And it's just a lot of hard work. You really just need to give your book away to readers who enjoy that kind of book. If you don't know who those readers are, that's a big problem, because you have to know what type of book your book is and who might like it. That's the basics of marketing. If you don't know that, that's what you need to figure out first, because you won't know how to target those people or show it to those people. And then if they aren't friends or followers, if they don't know you, you have to entice them with a free sample chapter or a super strong blurb or some other reviews from other people. You can't just tell them what the book is about, because that's not enough to convert cold traffic. Cold traffic means someone who just doesn't know you and isn't that interested in your book. They're not going to buy it unless you have significant social proof, an amazing cover, and a really tight blurb, which most authors never get. It's totally possible to do if you know what you're doing, but most authors never get to the point where they have enough reviews and a strong enough cover and a strong enough blurb to actually convert a cold audience, which is why instead of book marketing, I focus so much on the publishing part. So Book Marketing is Dead is older, but I revised it recently with some more updated marketing materials. And Guerrilla Publishing, which is my book more about how to self-publish well, focuses not really on the marketing, but on the publishing process. But I've already talked a lot about the publishing stuff. So in this video, I'm just going to talk about some actual book marketing tactics and some things I'm excited about doing for my next book. And one interesting thing I'll point out is that some people may say, well, Derek's books don't sell very well, so he can't know anything about book marketing. So that's something I want to address. I've sold like 50,000 books. I've made some money. I've probably about broken even, because I've also made some really big mistakes and spent a lot of money. I think my Amazon dashboard for AMS ads is like 40,000 spent and 20,000 earned. but it didn't include page reads. So including page reads, I'm up a little bit, but I'm not, making tons of money with my books. But partly that's because for fiction, I've never finished a complete series. Like I said in the last video, you really need a complete series and more content before you can stay profitable with ads. So I've been spending money to try to break even for the visibility, even though that wasn't a very smart move. I really needed to finish my series. So on the other hand, all of my books have over 100 reviews, and some of them have over 300 or 500 reviews. I've got a lot of reviews because I know the books are good, and I've been building my audience. So when I finish my series and I finish the audiobook sets, then my profit margin is going to be higher, and it's going to make more sense for me to start spending more money on advertising. So that's one answer. The other answer for nonfiction is I've never published a general nonfiction book before. So your sales are always going to be limited by the market, by how many people want the book that you have. So for example, I have books about book marketing, but the huge majority of authors haven't published a book, or they're not really interested in book marketing because they want to be writers. So the market, 10 or 20 million writers are looking for how to write a book, how to write a good book, they're looking for inspiration. This is something else that's interesting, I'll talk about in a minute. But the people who have published a book and they're looking for book marketing tactics, that's a very small, even though it seems like it's big, it's actually a very small audience. So I can only sell as many books as there are people who are looking for those things. I'm excited about my next book, which is Bookcraft, because it's more general nonfiction that should attract more people. So I will be able to market it in a way I've never really done before. And I can start to push more sales. I can spend more on the marketing than I've been able to do. Anyway, so a couple quick things. You can sell, I think I mentioned the book, Write and Format and Publish on a Budget, or whatever it is, that you can sell 100 books by yourself with your contacts, with your current contacts, which is why I recommend, shoot for 100 books. And that's not very sexy because people don't want to sell 100 books. They want to sell 100,000 or whatever, but most authors can't sell 100 books because most of their sales will be people doing them favors. Even so, if you can sell 100 books on launch, that's a pretty strong launch. That's a realistic, reasonable number to shoot for. I've since changed it to recommending you focus on 1,000 sales because you can sell 100 copies by tapping into your existing network, but that's not good book marketing anyway. You shouldn't be asking everybody to support your book. You should be connecting with real readers who are likely to like it and who read other books in the genre. If you can do that, you should be able to sell more. I think a realistic goal is 100 sales, but it means that you're doing it the wrong way. 1,000 sales is a near impossible goal if you're doing it the wrong way, but it's a good indication because if you are doing things the right way and you're trying to sell a good product that's well designed and packaged and clearly explains the value to the right audience, then you should be able to get to 1,000 sales. So that's a kind of good indication. 100 sales is possible if you're doing it wrong. 1,000 sales is only possible if you're doing it right. But if you can hit 1,000 sales, that means you're doing enough right that you can do better. If you can get to 1,000 sales, then you can get to 10,000 sales by scaling. So I think those are some good practical numbers to think about. The other analogy that I kind of like is thinking about if you have a cart with round wheels. So if you were a caveman or whatever, and you were in a cart race and you were trying to sell cart rides, one caveman is focusing on making the wheels rounder. They're focusing on, smoothing the wheel to make it rounder so there's less resistance, and the vehicle goes faster because the wheel handles the terrain better. That's what you should be focused on. Most people, they just have square wheels because they have an ugly cover or no reviews, or their blurb isn't very good, or they haven't figured out who their audience is or what the value is or why anybody should read this book. And then you're trying to push a cart with square wheels. And the other thing I want to warn you against is creative thinking, which sounds terrible because my whole platform is about being creative. But as a creative person, I am always drawn to the things that nobody else is doing that I think are clever, novel, new ideas. But that's kind of like taking your cart and rather than making your wheels round, you focus on, painting the cart or decorating your horse or doing like cool visual things that are different and crazy to try to get visibility. Most of the time, that's not a good idea because none of that will fix the real problems that keep your vehicle from moving forward. If you do everything right and you have round wheels, you have to climb the hill first, which takes some work, but then you can let the cart go and there will be forward momentum and the vehicle, which is your book, will sell itself. Like once you get in front of the right readers with a good book, it will sell itself and it will be less work for you. So most of the time when people ask me about book promotion or marketing, they're pushing a cart with square wheels uphill and I can't really do anything to help them. I want them to start over and build an email list and get some reviews or to write a good book, which I'll talk about in a minute. And so I can't really help them, or they don't want my kind of help. I'll tell them to start over because they have a product that isn't going to sell. They want someone who will take their money and give them visibility, which I know isn't going to work. So I'm really reluctant. But the problem is that's 95% of the market is authors with carts with square wheels who have money to burn, who want their book to be successful. And it's already published and they can't do anything about it other than try to get more visibility. And that's why there's so much money going into marketing, but none of it is really effective. So in guerrilla publishing and in book marketing is dead. Even though I really break down the strategies that I use to launch books, I also caution people against, other things that sound sexy or attractive that don't really work to sell books. Anyway, I got off from kind of a tangent. Let me talk a little bit about what I'm doing for Bookcraft, which is my book that's coming out in December. It has a bigger audience than I've had in the past, so I'm trying to do more promotions with it. So I'm doing things a little bit differently. Often with a lot of my nonfiction books, I just kind of put it out there. I don't really market very hard. A lot of my content I give away for free anyway, only because it's a smaller audience, and I have been more focused on like the brand building than profiting from my books. I'm trying to shift from that into just making an income from my books. So I have to write the right kind of books and I have to sell them the right kind of way. So one of the things, I'll try to do like 5 big things. I have other videos on this on YouTube, but one of the things I'm doing is a long pre-order campaign. Pre-orders is something I've had trouble with before because with pre-orders, if you miss your deadline, then you get banned for a year. And I've done that like 2 or 3 years in a row. It does help me to get the book finished. So it's really good for my productivity. I haven't been very good about getting it clean in time, which is a problem I'm trying to fix. But I gave myself a long pre-order campaign. The thing I like about pre-orders is that you can sell the book over a long period of time so that when the book launches, you already have a bunch of sales. That can also help the book stay sticky. It doesn't spike your rank. Like if you just had a whole bunch of sales when you launch the book, if you have 100 sales when you launch the book, you can get up in the top 1,000 on Amazon already. So that's great for visibility, but then it could sink really fast. So the value of like a long pre-order is that I can slowly train Amazon what type of book my book is and who the audience is, so that when it starts selling, they will know who to promote it to. So long pre-orders allows me to put the book cover up, start talking about the book, start creating pre-marketing content, which I'll talk about in a minute. And I'm up to 500 sales, but I'm going for 1,000 pre-order sales. So I have a video on YouTube about how I'm getting my 1,000 pre-order sales. And it's a little discouraging because I have a really big list, but on the one hand, I haven't really, really heavily promoted this book yet. I've been doing sneaky promotion. So I've been like talking about other things. And then at the bottom, I say, by the way, make sure you buy my book. I also, on my website, I changed the banner on my blog and some of the stuff on the sidebar to have a really big, like, go pre-order this book, which I think is working a little bit, but again, not as much as I expected it to. I get a lot of traffic on my blog. I have a really big email list. So for those numbers, like 30,000 people on my blog a month and 70,000 people on my email list, to only get 500 sales on this book is not great. On the other hand, it's 500 sales. I do believe I'll get to 1,000 sales. I still have a couple months to get there, and I haven't really actively started to hard promote it yet, which I'm going to start doing the next couple of months. So those are some things I'm doing. I'm also running AMS ads for visibility, targeting other books in my genre. I want this book to be like a big how to write a book. So whenever people recommend the famous writing books like Bird by Bird or Chris Fox's stuff or 2K to 10K, Take Off Your Pants by Libby Hawker, Stephen King's On Writing, all those the best books on writing for writers, I want this to be one of those mainstream staples. And I'm proud of the content. I know the content is really good. I'm excited about it. I've learned a lot about how to write a good nonfiction book. So I'm doing a lot of things smarter than I've done about them in the past. But I'm targeting all of those other best-selling books on Amazon so that my also bots are already populated. So by the time it launches on Amazon, it will already have history of these kind of people, or people who buy these books also buy these books, so that when it launches, Amazon can start saying, oh, you bought this guy's book, you might like Derek's book. So that's partly why I'm doing a long period campaign with advertising. It's really a low key. I'm not spending very much on ads. I'm just trying to kind of slowly generate some data for Amazon. The other thing someone talked about in my group today, in the Guerrilla Publishing group, I just saw something. I'll reply to it soon, but somebody was saying how Amazon doesn't do a good job about getting natural visibility because you're only allowed to choose those 2 categories. You actually can sign up to 10 categories, but you have to request from customer service, and it's difficult to even find out what those categories are. You have to do a lot of research, and that's all true. But the thing is, Amazon, like, the only books that are going to be visible are the best-selling books. And if you do a promotion and you sell 100 books and your book goes up to the top of Amazon for a couple of days, it's going to sink again and you're invisible again. Yes, that sucks, but that also means your conversion isn't good enough. If you get to the top of Amazon, people are seeing your book and then it stops selling again, it's because the new people who were seeing your book didn't want to buy it because the cover or the blurb or didn't have enough reviews, or for whatever reason. That's a problem you can fix by fixing your conversion. But yes, it's true. Unless you're in the top 10,000 on Amazon, you can still make good money. If your book is like 30,000 or 40,000, you can still make decent money. But after 50,000 or so, there's out of 6 million books or 10 million books or however many books there are on Amazon right now, it's true that the vast majority of them are invisible and are not making any money. That's not your competition. Your competition are those 10,000 books that are actually making money, or the 50,000 books. Like, unless you're in the top 50,000, that's the goal. That's where you want to be. It doesn't really matter if you're number 1 in some obscure category that nobody ever sees, because it's still not getting the visibility. It doesn't really mean anything. It's not going to mean more sales just because you get more visibility. But for long-term consistent income, yes, you do want to do whatever you can to stay visible. Partly that's being in the right categories. Partly that's keywords. So I haven't really talked about it yet, but you need your blurb to feed the humans and the robots. So it has to tell the Amazon robots where to place your book. You have to have the keywords in your blurb or in your title and your subtitle, or even I think in your author bio, or even in the reviews other people have left. You want to have all those keywords so that Amazon, when someone's searching those keywords on Amazon, they can show your book because they think it's a good guess. But also, Amazon's only going to recommend the books that are selling. So if somebody else is selling better with the same keywords, it doesn't matter that you've got more keyword stuffing. Amazon's going to recommend the best-selling books because Amazon also wants to make money. So if they're going to recommend a book to their readers, they're going to recommend the book that's most likely to convert to a sale because they know that's more profitable than recommending some other book that doesn't get very much conversion. So it's not only about whether or not your keywords show up for the search terms, it's also about conversion. Amazon's going to promote successful products that are most likely to get the sale. So it's about conversion. That's why I said you have to feed the robots. You also have to feed the humans, because if you just have keyword stuffing, which is important, you also need a killer blurb that gets people to want to read the book. And that's difficult to do. I have an article on creativity about blurb writing. I also, in the Book Marketing is Dead book, there's a long revised passage where I break down several people's formulas for writing a book. So I would look for that, because the blurb is really important. The biggest mistakes I see are people not communicating what the book is. So they might be talking about the story, but they don't use the genre keywords. They don't say, this is a young adult dystopian sci-fi techno thriller. And even then, that's too many keywords, because then that's so many things you don't even know what it is. So you have to talk to the humans and tell the story in the right way that creates intrigue. But then you also have to drop all your keywords so that, if the story sounds good, you have to make sure it's clear to the robots and the humans what genre this is and what type of reader will enjoy this genre, maybe because it's like these other similar books. So that's really important, to get the blurb right, to have the right keywords, and to make sure that you are staying visible. Going back to some of the other things that I'm going to be doing for this next book launch is content marketing. So the advertising is important. When I launch the book, I do too bad a job of soft launching. I'm afraid to alienate my list. I always get anxious when I email my list. I don't want to piss anyone off. I want to make sure that I'm not annoying them. On the other hand, if you have any list at all, you have to try to promote your books. That's why you have a list. That's why you're building a platform, is to sell your book. So when you do have a new release, I often send 1 or 2 emails. You really should send 5 to 10 emails. I think in the new edition of Publish, I can't even remember the title of my book, which is terrible, but Write and Publish a Book on a Budget, I put in basically like a launch campaign. Like if I was doing a launch campaign, here is the 5-step email series that I would send. I have some other stuff in some of my courses where I talk about emailing, but basically you don't want to just email once. You don't want to email buy my book 5 or 10 times, but you want to have good content that you can share with your audience with a soft sell and a hard sell. You probably also want scarcity, which means, you start off with bonuses, or you start off with a discount, and the discount is going away. You want a limited special deal or something. I will also mention Amazon doesn't like rank manipulation. So when you sell too many books too quickly, they can accuse you of rank manipulation. It is not illegal to offer bonuses for pre-order. You can't incentivize purchases. You can't incentivize borrows in Kindle Unlimited, but you're allowed to say, if you pre-order my book, I will give you a bonus. I have it's contentious because it's not clearly understood. And it's also true that Amazon's terms of service are changing and it's difficult to keep up with it. But I have a really long breakdown on creativity about that, if you're curious. But the point was, you can't just offer the book. You probably have to offer them a reason to buy now, as opposed to waiting until later, whether that's a bonus or a discount or something. Generally, like if you email and say the book is available for 99 cents, that won't be as effective as the 99 cents deal is over tonight at midnight, and then it's going up at full price. You have to buy it now to save the money. That second email you send saying that the deal is going away is going to be more effective than the first email you send saying the deal is available. So that's something that's important to keep in mind. With content marketing, the other things you can be saying are excerpts. Some of the cool things I want to be doing for this book, for both, like, for example, I don't consider this marketing for my book, Write, Publish on a Budget, because it's old and I'm really just revamping it, and because I'm giving it away for free, so I'm not even really pushing the sales. But for example, doing 5 days of live videos walking through the process of the book is not terrible content to market a book. I will say that my live videos, they're not getting a lot of visibility. Facebook groups used to have way more visibility than Facebook pages, but that's really seriously gone down as well. Facebook prioritizes engaging content. So whether you're advertising or whether they're posting to a page or a group, you're really only going to get the visibility if your post is engaging. So when you post on Facebook, whatever kind of content you give, where like you're on a podium telling your followers something, is not going to be as engaging as giving them a space to come into the dialogue. So for example, what I could have done was say, and I should do this, is say, I will critique your blurb for free, or I will critique your book cover for free. So show up, I will do a live video, you post your book cover, and I will live on air critique your book cover. Something like that will encourage more people to comment and will get more engagement, and then more people will see the video. It wouldn't make sense to do that unless I'm selling something that's related to book cover design. So maybe if I refresh my book cover design book later, or my guerrilla publishing book, which I want to rewrite and relaunch later, maybe I'll do something like that. But even in these posts, I should be asking questions and like asking people to take action by sharing something about themselves in the comments, just so that it shows up on Facebook. Because out of 10,000 people in my guerrilla publishing group, or out of now, I think I have like 20,000 subscribers on YouTube, only a couple hundred people will see my live videos when I show up on live videos, or only a couple hundred people will see my content when I post content, which is annoying and frustrating. And I may not necessarily want to boost my post or advertise to reach my own audience, which is why emailing can be more effective, because you can reach people for free. But anyway, so I could be doing live videos, I could be posting content. The other thing I really like that I will be doing for Book Marketing is Dead and for Write and Publish Your Book on a Budget, those are both free books now. So I'm not in Kindle Unlimited. I can make that content available elsewhere. What I would normally recommend for someone to do is to give away the first chapter for free on their website, and then maybe offer a few more chapters for free if they sign up to the email list. For like an opt-in bribe offer, I wouldn't try to get people to sign up for your free offer unless they can see your writing, because if they don't trust that your writing is good, they're not going to want your content. But if you give the first couple of pages and the writing is good and they're in the story, then they might sign up to get another couple chapters for free, or the prequel that you've written, or whatever. The problem with having a blog and having like fiction on your blog is that nobody will find it because it won't show up in SEO or Google. So one of the things I kind of wanted to try was posting on Medium, because Medium is a place where you can post your content. These two books, Book Marketing is Dead and Write, Publish on a Budget, that's like 100,000 words basically easily on a whole bunch of different publishing related sections. So I could publish something like 50 Medium articles, 50 long Medium articles. On Medium, they have do not follow links, no follow links, which means I won't get the SEO juice. I won't get the links back to my blog or my own content or my own books. One of the cool hacks that I think still works, but is hard to prove, is that, for example, on my site Creativity, which has pretty good blog SEO, I could link to book marketing, and I could link that keyword straight to one of my books on Amazon, so that when people are on Amazon and they search for book marketing, my book would show up higher. Like I said, that's something that's really hard to prove, because it also depends on the conversion and so many other factors. But it's kind of one thing that's not hard to do. On Medium, I wouldn't get that do follow link, but Medium has its own readership, and they have a new system now where they pay you for the time spent reading, a little bit similar to KU's page reads. So as an extra income stream, if I publish 50 long articles on Medium about self-publishing, not only might I make a little bit of money on Medium from people who are reading my content, but on each one of those articles, I could have my direct offer. So those are 2 free books, basically. So at the end of each of those articles, I could have the offer to go and get the free book. Like, this is an excerpt from this book, go and download the free book. Then those people would sign up to my email list. Or they would just download the free PDF that I've made available even without an email list, because I want people to read the book, even if they are not signing up by email. This is kind of a different thing, but I found, if I ask for the email first, maybe like 25% of my traffic will sign up by email, but that means 75% of people are leaving without signing up and getting the content. So if I just give the content away for free, it's a free PDF, they don't even have to sign up, more people will read the content, which means they will learn something and they will have nice things to say and feel about me as a brand because I'm providing them with good content. And if they take my advice, they may be willing to check out some of the services that I recommend or my other books or whatever. So right now I have these 2 free books. In the books, I have a lot of references to Bookcraft, which is a book that's coming out in December. So even if I give away a ton of free content, if I have like 50 Medium posts that go to my 2 free books, and I give out, a few thousand books a month, some of those are going to trickle into pre-orders for my next book. It's a massive amount of work. I wouldn't recommend doing it necessarily this way, but because I already have all this content and because I'm already giving it away for free, I could have gone into Kindle Unlimited with my nonfiction books, because if you're in Kindle Unlimited, the rank would be better. I probably would be earning more money from those books. But not a ton of money anyway, because like I said, they're really specialized nonfiction books. Even if I'm making, good money, $500 or $1,000 a month with them, I think it's more worth it to me to give the books away for free and reach more people. I'd rather have 3,000 people read the books than 500 people. Even if I was making like $500, I might only be like 200 people reading the books. So at this point in my career, I want more people reading my content rather than trying to make a little bit of money on Amazon, because if I build a really big readership and an email list, it'll be easier and easier for me to launch commercial books when I have the right kind of content. I went off on I've been talking about a lot of things. I don't know if you are still listening or you still have questions. If you're still there, leave me a comment and say hi or ask me any questions. I've talked about pre-orders. I talked about content marketing. So instead of the 50 articles on Medium, I could also publish those straight on my blog to try to get blog traffic, which I can also do. You can post on Medium and also on your blog traffic. The other thing I really want to start doing is on Kindle, you can now like download the book yourself, highlight phrases, and then turn it into an infographic and then share that infographic on social media. So I could I think I'd have to buy the book from Kindle, so I couldn't do it on a pre-order book to do that, but I could be doing it with these 2 books that are already out. And I should be doing it. I should just highlight like a good sentence or 2 every day. I could be doing it for my pre-order. It comes out in 2 months. Every time I write a new chapter, every time I write a cool sentence, I should turn it into an infographic and share that on social media. It's not as easy. It's really easy to go into the Kindle app and highlight and turn it into an infographic. It's not quite as easy. I like an app called WordSwag. So it's another iPhone app where you can make really nice infographics, but it's something I could also do, in Photoshop or in Canva or whatever, once I have a system, or you could hire a VA or something to just make you, if you give them 100 quotes. While I'm editing, I'll probably leave comments to myself like, this is a good quote, and just make a list of 20 to 50 1 or 2 sentence passages that make really good shareable quotes. It could be like one really cool little image. It could be like one longer screenshot. The other really cool thing I've seen is, especially on Instagram, it would be like a slideshow, but you can also do it on Facebook, where instead of if you had 1 or 2 pages, which are great pages, break it up into 5 or 10 slides where you have one square slide that looks really good. It's really well designed. You have the 1 or 2 sentences, but you post them at the same time, and it becomes like a slideshow where readers will read the first one and then they'll slide through the images, but it'll be a continuous passage. I think that's a really cool thing to do for both fiction and nonfiction. That's the kind of thing where, you could do that once a day for 30 days. It's not that hard to find 30 things worth sharing in your book. And at each one of those, you can mention in the context, make sure you go buy the book or pre-order the book or get the first chapter on my website or whatever the call to action is. So that's something else I'm excited to try to do better. I don't do a very good job about it, but the nice thing is rather than saying go buy go buy my book, you're sharing good, valuable content. It's so much easier to sell a book if you're sharing good content that people like and resonate with. And also, incidentally, they can get more of the good content that you're already sharing by buying the book. That's a lot easier than go buy my book because I say it's good or whatever. You show the proof with the good writing first. The other thing I want to play around with, on Goodreads, a lot of people go to Goodreads to find good quotes. And Goodreads has a quote system. And I believe the way it works, I looked into it recently, but I think the way that it works is you have to go on Goodreads and you can copy and paste a passage from your book, but you have to link to the book that's available, or claim it as your book. You might have to only be able to do it on your own book, so you'd have to claim it first, and then do that. But I want to figure that out because I could basically do the same thing and post 20 or 30 really good, really short quotes from my books, not only to build my brand as an author. You wouldn't want to do bad ones, but if you have, smart things to say that people are resonating with already. The other really cool side tangent, you always want to be asking for engagement. So whenever you're thinking about engagement, for example, you could label your 30 best quotes from your book, and then you could post them on Facebook, and you could say, I want to choose the top 5 quotes. Which of these 30 passages resonates with you the most? You may not get many comments, but that's a great example of awesome content. You could turn that into an infographic, or it could just be one massive post. But by asking for feedback, you could say, like, I'm doing some pre-marketing for my book. It's called Bookcraft. It's coming out in December. Here are 30 of what I think are the most inspirational passages. I want to turn 5 of them into infographics or posters. Which of these do you like the best? Because you're asking for feedback, people will be more engaged. If I just post those 30 quotes, people aren't going to care. But if I say, which of these do you like? They're going to consider them. They're going to think about them and consider them, because everybody wants to share their opinion. So if you give them the space to share their opinion, you'll have more engagement. People will be paying attention to what you're saying. More people will even see the post because of the engagement. I got an email recently by someone who was saying specifically they didn't like, somebody else said something in an online webinar and they didn't like it because they thought it sounded manipulative. So like to ask people for their comments so that Facebook sees the engagement and promotes your book or your post to more people, that can seem manipulative to some people. But for me, what it's really about is you want people to be paying attention to what you're saying, and people are not paying attention. Nobody cares what you're saying because there's a million things to pay attention to. You need to ask for their participation by inviting their engagement. It just works better. It's not just about getting more views. It's also, the first goal is to get them to pay attention, no matter what you're sharing. If you're sharing like, buy my book, or my book is so great, or I have a new book launch, people are going to ignore you because they don't care. If you're asking, what do you think about these 2 covers? Which one do you like the best? Which, by the way, is good for engagement, but bad for making real decisions about your book cover design, because other people don't know shit about book cover design. And if you're trying to, most authors will have like 2 ugly covers with very small changes that don't actually matter. And then they'll be asking which of these are better, and it's not going to matter. Even so, it's better engagement to ask which of these covers do you like than to ask, go buy my book or whatever. So just something to keep in mind. Anyway, I like the idea, asking for more people's participation while you're writing your book, while you're leading up to your book. The other thing I'll be doing a lot of, now I have 2 more months to write this book. So as I'm writing it, as I'm editing it, right now it's still kind of a mess. A lot of the resources I've shared in my online courses or other YouTube videos when I was kind of figuring stuff out, now I know what I want to say, but I have to make it good, which is where the writing and the editing comes in. But when I edit a good piece or a really powerful passage that I want to share, like maybe it's not perfect, maybe it's not clean yet, but I can just still share it and say, like, what do you think about this? Especially if it's controversial. I actually have a bunch of stuff in this book that I may have to pull out because on the one hand, for a good, successful nonfiction book, it can't just be the nuts and bolts, how to do the stuff. It also has to get people to feel a certain way. It has to get them to believe in themselves. So I'm putting in a lot of stories and historical trivia and a lot of other cool things that are not really just about the craft of writing. It's more about the mindset. And some of those things are a little bit controversial. So some of those things I may take out and say for another book. One, for example, was, is writing prostitution? Because in Stephen Pressfield's book, The War of Art, he says people who write to please an audience are prostitutes. And I take offense on many levels for that suggestion. And I also think it's really bad advice that's hurtful to authors. But I can also write a great chapter about the history of writing. Virginia Woolf said that writing is not prostitution, but she said, first you write for yourself, then you write for others, then you write for the money. No, she says writing is like sex. First you do it for the money, yourself, then you do it for other people, then you do it for the money. Anyway, there's like a whole big passage I can write about writing and prostitution, which is fascinating, but also a little risque. So that kind of thing, probably I'll write it and then I'll post on Facebook and say, what do you guys think about this? Should this go in the book or not? By the way, don't forget to pre-order. So basically what I'm saying is, if you have a long pre-order campaign set up, it means you can share more pieces of content while you're leading up to the sale to get more sales in a longer period of time. If I tried to save it all for the book launch, then I would have to just rush. Then I'd have to send out like 5 or 10 emails in the same week trying to push the book. I just probably couldn't get as many sales as I could if I did lots of content over a longer period of time. Even so, when the book launches, I'll still be, doing a lot more work in that first week. People also say with advertising, for example, you want to basically double the budget every day. So I would start with like $100 the first day, and then do $200, $300, $400, $500, so that Amazon sees an upwards trajectory of sales and they calculate more people are buying this book. It's converting well. I'm going to show it to more people. What Amazon will basically do, if they think your book might sell to a certain audience, they will send out a small test email. So they may have a email list of people who like books about writing, or people who are authors, or people who buy books about craft. They may have a pretty big list, but they won't send it to everybody. They may send a new release alert to 1,000 people, and then they will see if that converts or not. And if enough people buy it, they may think, okay, this is doing okay. I'm going to try it to more people. And again, that's one of those things where Amazon is not open about their process. So it's hard to prove exactly what's going on behind the scenes, but that's generally what I believe to be true. So you need to show that your book is converting and it's on an upwards trajectory. I will probably try to do a lot of that smart stuff when I launch this book. When I get into the actual book launch stuff, I will probably come on and do a bunch of live videos. I'll be posting a lot of content. The other thing about content is, like, if I post once a week, people will ignore it. But if I suddenly am showing up all the time, even if they ignore it, it's visible. The thing about visibility is people will ignore you the first 7 times. Even if they like me, even if they like my content, they will still ignore me 7 times. But if I keep showing up in a short period of time, they may finally be like, what's he talking about? What's going on that's so important that he's always here? And they may pay attention to one of my posts enough to see my offer, which is kind of the point. So you can't just talk about your book once or twice or spread it out. You kind of have to, especially during your launch, you kind of have to show up consistently, not just being salesy or promotional, but talking about the value of your book in whatever way you can by giving value in your book. If you write fiction, that could be something like reading for the first couple chapters or creating content. One of the cool things I want to do with, there's a platform called Cameo where you can hire B-list actresses and movie stars to do things for you. It's kind of like Fiverr for famous people. And usually, like, you pay them $50 to sing happy birthday to somebody. I think in some cases I could pay them possibly to read a few pages of one of my fiction books. So, like, there's a famous actress from the Vampire Diaries, who my audience would recognize, that if I could have her read something about my book, that would be amazing content. I don't know for sure if that's something I can do, but it's one of the ideas that I would like to try out, because it would be awesome. Like if you share a Facebook video of a famous actress. The other one I like is an actress from The Magicians, which is one of my favorite TV shows. Definitely great for my audience. Everybody would recognize her because, you know, the thing about audiences is the easy way to get people to like you is to share what you love or what you hate. And people who love or hate the same things will feel a bond with you because you love and hate those things. It's psychology. It's sounds manipulative and bullshit, but it's basically, rather than talking about you and what you want, you just share things. For example, I like crystals. Here's a really massive green crystal I bought at the Jade Market. You can see there's a quartz crystal behind me. Also, I wanted to get like a giant, one of those amethyst towers, and I might still, but it was so heavy I couldn't even lift it. Sharing things that you like, while it may not mean anything to some people, it will pull in the people that are more likely to be in your audience anyway, which is good. So you want to be sharing the things that you like. If I had a pet, which I really wish I had, I'd be holding up my cat or my dog or whatever. And then dog people or cat people who love their dogs or cats would relate to me on that level. It's an easy thing to do, but it's just about sharing what you love or hate, sharing things you like or dislike, rather than like telling people who you are in words. It's also about telling stories. People don't remember the information, they remember how you made them feel. And in a nonfiction book or in like platform building in general, the value of telling stories is so that people see you as a human, so that they feel something about you. They relate to you a little bit. You want to be relatable or vulnerable or whatever. There was also a cool study I saw. I forget who it was, somebody really famous. I think it was Ben Franklin, but I might be wrong. I'm pretty sure it was Ben Franklin. Basically what he did was he had like an enemy who was always shit talking his posts, his books, or negative reviewing his books. And so to basically get the guy to stop being an asshole and negatively reviewing his books, he wanted to try to build a relationship so they weren't antagonistic anymore. And what he did was, rather than like send a gift or try to do that where he bribed the guy, instead he asked for a favor. He knew that there was like, the other guy had a rare manuscript and he asked if he could borrow this special manuscript. So because he needed help and asked for a favor, and the other guy was able to do him a favor and lend him the book, and then Ben gave him like a nice thank you note a week later, then they became friends, because it's more effective to make other people feel valued and recognized than to like just do something that's about you. So even if you're just providing value, even though it's worthwhile, even though people like you for providing value, they won't love you or care about you until you allow space for them to show their best self, or to show that you value them as their best self, or something like that, where just, you know, by them doing you a favor, they've shown, they kind of give them like a leg up, so then they don't feel insecure. They feel like they are helping you. It's kind of weird because I also tell people like, never ask for favors when you do book marketing, always come from a position of strength and value. But at the same time, that's because I'm an introvert who's socially awkward, who doesn't like to ask for favors from anyone. So I like to do everything myself or avoid people in general. But it was really interesting little like psychological hack that I like to think about. I think I've kind of run out of things to say. I hope I mentioned some things that are interesting. Of course, I talk about, in Book Marketing is Dead, I talk about so many other things. And in Write, Format, Publish, Promote on a Budget, I talk about a lot of specific book launch things. And those are both older books that I like, that I've updated recently. So they're kind of messy. Like, they're good because I've updated the content to make sure it's good. But they're also not very smooth because I've revised it so heavily. There's also guerrilla publishing, which is, in both of those books, I think there's a link to sign up and get guerrilla publishing for free. And it has a series of tutorial videos. And in those videos, there's a couple of hours of really, really in-depth screen share platform building, how I run ads, how I launch books, how I build my Facebook audiences or whatever. So that's really good content if you're looking for like deeper nuts and bolts book marketing stuff. I feel like I've talked a lot about book marketing, and it's frustrating because it doesn't matter. The things that matter are cover design and blurb and the easy stuff, which I can do as a service. And I can teach people how to do it to some extent, but really, even if you learn how to design covers or how to write your own blurbs, they still won't be half as good as paying an expert who can just make it good the first time. So I would strongly encourage you to not think about book marketing at all and really focus on making sure you have a product that is attractive to your audience. That's the most important thing. I hope actually I will be not really talking about book marketing anymore. I'm going to be focused on the craft of writing. I'm really excited about talking about the craft of writing because it's such higher level. I feel like people don't really value the nuts and bolts of self-publishing or book marketing because I feel like a lot of authors think of themselves as like prima donna creative people who are just, everybody else is just a helper. Everybody else is just to support them, but they are the big dreamers. And I want to and it's still the same way, even if I'm talking about writing, I'm talking about writing good commercial books that readers love. And a lot of writers don't care. They don't want to hear that. They don't want to write books to a market. They want to write their art or whatever. So they consider me as a hack and not an artist because I'm trying to write good books on purpose, which is one of the big mindset limitations that I have to address in Bookcraft, which is a challenge. So it's exciting. And I'm like I said, I'm really excited about the content I've already got. I've got 2 months to clean it up, and I'm a little worried because it's got to be, really good. But I know that the content is already really good. So as long as I just clean it up a bit over the next 2 months, which is going to be a crazy amount of work, it's going to be a really good book. It's going to be really long. It's probably going to be like a thick 300, 400 page print book. So I'm excited about that. You can pre-order that if you want to learn more about writing. I've got a lot of other free books about everything else. I have a ton of YouTube videos. If you haven't subscribed on YouTube yet, I would do that. And if you're not in the Guerrilla Publishing Facebook group yet, I would do that also. Thanks. If you have questions, you can post them below this video. I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. This is probably the last video I will do for now. I really need to focus on, get back to writing and doing the books. Thanks. Bye-bye.